Welcome to Digital London Harvest Festival. We're live from Brockwell Park Community Greenhouses, and my name is Jelena, and I normally, pre-COVID, teach fermentation workshops in the greenhouses. These are organic gardens. You're going to have a little wander around through our video later. But right now, we have prepared a little fermentation video for you. I will be teaching fermentation workshop on the 19th of September on Zoom for the Harvest Festival. So for all the details, please check on the Harvest Festival, London Harvest Festival website. Fermentation is a brilliant tool to help us preserve the glut we have from our allotments, gardens or community gardens like this one is. And often at this time of the year, we have so much produce that we can use in our workshop, which is fantastic, whether it's for children, where we walk with children around our gardens, allow them to pick and smell and taste, and then chop with us and ferment to take home carrot sticks or little sauerkraut that is for their taste, or for adult fermentation we do all sorts of hot sauces and kimchis and various other lacto-fermented goodies. But for today I wanted to show you a very simple way to preserve tomatoes. I often, when I grow tomatoes in my garden, they are hardly ever red, they are just green. So one way to preserve them is to make this very flavoursome herbal brine and stuff the tomatoes with that and leave them to ferment for about a week, and you have an amazing condiment to serve with your roast or just have as a condiment to your Sunday or Saturday lunches. So all we need, and right here I picked a couple of tomatoes from Brockwell Gardens, and as you can see they are not entirely red, and there's a reason for it. Fully ripe tomatoes are full of sugar and they tend to ferment very quickly and turn into mush. One exemption to that is if you are fermenting cherry tomatoes when they're fully ripe and you turn them into cherry tomato bombs, and you wouldn't let them ferment for very long. But these green tomatoes that have less sugars available actually mellow over time and are brilliant to any kind of fatty meals that need a bit of zing to liven them up. So with these tomatoes, I am going to try and keep them intact. I'm going to cut them a little bit just so I can stuff them with fresh herbs. And today we picked some mint, some tarragon, parsley, fennel fronds. We have a couple of fennel flowers as well for the wild yeasts. We've got some sage and rosemary, and it doesn't really matter what combination you do. It is really to complement the brine, and if you just go for mint, you're going to have very minty, very clear brine flavour. If you combine them like this, you're going to have them all kind of in there like you made a very herby soup. Brine that you have left over after you've eaten your tomatoes will be a fantastic digestive tonic, and you can use it instead of vinegars in your vinaigrettes for salads. You can just drink it as it is. You can flavour your soups after they've cooled down, or add them to your stews as well. As this brine is going to be very herby, it's brilliant. You can marinate your meats overnight and then cook it like that. So the way to do brining, and that's just one of the methods for lacto-fermentation, is you would be making a very salty sort of brine. So we're talking about a litre of water. Well, here I've got about 250 ml, but to a litre of water, you're talking about 2 to 5% salt. If you go with 3% salt, that is very safe. So that is 30 grams to a litre of water. So I've got 250 mils of water here, where I've diluted about 8 grams of salt. So it's already diluted and ready to go over our tomatoes. And all you need to do is chop these lovely herbs just very roughly. You don't need a processor for this, but if you did, you can also include some celery stalks and some garlic as well, a couple of chilies to flavour and make it a bit more spicy. And you're going to put your herbs inside, and then with these tomatoes, you're going to slice them almost to the end. So you're going to slice 3/4 of the way down on both sides. So you have created sort of like a little book, or like a fortune teller, as my son calls that little game, paper game. And then you're going to stuff them with herbs, just like this. So imagine if you had garlic, or horseradish even, or wasabi root, or any sort of spicy condiment to add to that, that would be delicious. So you are looking at keeping your tomatoes intact like this, stuffed with herbs. However, we have a very small, well, narrow neck jar here, which means that I might have to just pull them in halves like this and then keep this slit here. We tend to use recycled jars. To ferment, you don't really need any specialist equipment. What's important is that you clean whatever jar you have left. I'm going to start putting them down now inside the jar and talk about this. So put them face down. So you clean your jars thoroughly. If you've got the time to sterilize them, then have them in 120 degrees oven for about 15 minutes. But if you don't have the time, just wash it really well with soapy water and make sure that all soap residue is washed out. And let it dry, and then you can use your jar. Lactofermentation is an anaerobic process, which means that oxygen is detrimental. That's why the lid is very important, so you can close it properly. And then this whopper of a tomato we'll have to cut in half and see if we can, oh, this might be difficult, but then just work with what you've got. Try to create little pockets so you can stuff the herbs, because tomato juice will just mingle with all the herbs and create a beautiful brine. Okay, so like I mentioned, brining is a process whereby you dilute salt in water in a particular ratio. A litre of water, 2 to 5% of salt. And then you would chop up your vegetables, like we have our tomatoes here. I'm going to stuff the remaining herbs on a side. Put some rosemary, some tarragon with flowers. They've just been picked. And then we're going to pour the brine over. The most important thing with lactofermentation is that everything is covered in brine. And as you can see, so this is already pre-made brine, we're going to fill it up almost to the top, so you can have a look. There are a couple of herbs floating on the top, but you can just squeeze them under the tomato here and put a lid on. That's all there is, all the philosophy about brining method in lactofermentation. So you have your salty water, and then you have your vegetables that you prepare, you pour the brine over, you put a lid on, tighten it so there's no oxygen that comes in, and you leave it at room temperature. Now, greenhouse is too hot, so I'm going to take this jar to our kitchen, and where temperature is about 16 to 18 degrees. What I need to do in the first week is what we call burping, which basically means unlocking this lid just slightly like that to release any accumulated gases, carbon dioxide, and then screw it back on. And after a week, you're going to have very nice sort of zingy, soury goodness that you can try. I'm going to invite Josh and Kate from Brockwell Park Community Greenhouses to join me now and try some tomatoes that I fermented earlier. Now, these were a little bit riper than the ones we picked today, and as you can see, they turned a little bit into mush, but that's still fine. Come on, guys, come join me and give this a try. And try the brine.
Yeah, good. I'm really excited by this. Use both these forks so I can get a good bit.
I mean, you can use this, just whiz it up and use it in your Bloody Mary as well. You don't have to treat it as a vegetable.
Oh, wow.
My first one was like, yeah, that will go really, really well in a Bloody Mary.
It would.
I'm trying to make it look like that's not the first thing on my mind, but...
No.
You're just suggestible.
Oh, it's delicious. You're going to have to fight me for this cake because I'm going to eat the rest.
I
If
can't go in now because it's all COVID safe, you know.
Yes, it totally is. You double dip.
I did not.
No one's. This is all yours, Josh. Now it's all yours.
We'll cut this part out. It's
That's great.
It is really good.
Really interesting.
And if you can just do mono herbs. You can choose to do just mint, or just fennel, or just parsley.
And would you put the garlic in whole?
I would mince it.
Right.
So if you were to put everything, all the herbs in a food processor, or just mince it really finely, and the chili, it would just do something different to the marinade.
What's so lovely about it is it's still got a really fresh flavour to it, which is like, it's what I love about fermentation, that you don't kill the flavour with vinegar.
No.
There's so many things that traditionally English people preserve, they always whack in so much vinegar.
That's
and
right,
it's just like, oh, it's a bit of a flavour. I love vinegar, but it is a bit of a flavour killer always. That is
you
so
get
fresh.
everything out of it as well.
Yeah.
So you can
It's
taste
herbs.
everything that's in there, and it comes in all these different waves and permutations depending on what you're eating at one time.
And one of our
It's really
most
good.
popular recipes, I think, in Brockwell fermentation workshops has been piccalilli, whereby we looked at piccalilli through fermentation rather than using vinegar.
Yeah.
And the flavour, the extinction for people has been, wow, it has been a revelation to have something that has health benefits of probiotic lactobacillus bacteria, but also can be preserved and can be kept for a very long time. So this is just one way to keep everything for winter months, which we'll need.
Now, how long could you, once this has done its thing, after the week, would you just keep it in the fridge for how long?
If you've got cellar that is 6 degrees, keep it in the cellar. Otherwise, keep it in the fridge. It can stay with green tomatoes for months and months on end. Obviously, for softer vegetables like tomatoes and courgettes, they will get soggy over time unless you use something like wine leaves we have here in the greenhouse to introduce some tannins to keep everything crispy. We could have done that, but we used very almost unripe green tomatoes, so I don't think we should worry about that. But we're going to eat this fresh, aren't we? Thank you very much. Join us for our fermentation workshop on the 19th of September, and welcome to Brockwell Park Community Greenhouses. One take.
You're such a pro.
Yeah, didn't need to.